All right. Welcome, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm Dr. Karen, and you can see Michelle as a co-panelist. I've asked Michelle to help out today because we had a lot of people register, and I want to see if we can get to as many questions as possible. And it's so good to have support. What can I say? So the chat is disabled your end. I have no idea why. So if you have questions, put them in the Q&A and Michelle can kind of work through those so that we can see them at the end. And in the chat box, we will be putting a lot of links. So as I talk about things, Michelle's going to put the links in there for you. So, and there is a way, I think, to save the chat, although if it's disabled, I'm not sure if you still have those three little dots at the bottom of the chat to save anything. You might want to copy the links and post them somewhere as we're working today. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. And some of you, well, most of you know me, but let me just introduce myself. I went to medical school in Australia many years ago, and I was a primary care doctor in Australia. And then I fell in love with an American, and he whisked me away to California, which is where I'm coming to you from today. And that was 30 years ago. And for the past, well, when I got my green card and got all official, so I guess it's like 28 years, I've worked in the wellness industry. So I decided to make the switch from clinical medicine to wellness. And I am a trained health coach. And I trained with Institute of Integrative Nutrition because they don't teach you anything about that in medical school. And my great passion is to educate about the question, what creates health? So I have Michelle with me here, and we've known each other a long time through the National Wellness Institute. And she is part of my team of coaches that we develop programs and work together, which is just a joy. And today we're going to be talking about the link between the gut and mental health. So this topic really, I was inspired to do this because of the pandemic and the concern I have for the mental health epidemic that has been a fallout of the pandemic and will continue to be. And as health coaches, I feel it's really an opportunity to step up on many levels. And with good information and resources, I will be giving you a lot of resources today. We can really not only help ourselves and the people we love, but help those that we work with as a health coach. So again, welcome. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to get started. And just for those that have just started, just joined us, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. Just going to move this and pop up this. So Michelle, you can see the screen. Yes.
Yep.
You can see the screen. All is well. Sound is good.
All is well.
Recording is on. Yes. I did push the recording. Do you see it's recording?
Yes, I see the recording button. Yeah.
Thank you. And everybody that attends, you will get a copy of the recording because we do go through a lot of information. And I know it's a lot to take in, but just allow yourself to take in what works for you in this journey and know that you can always come back to some of the topics and the ideas or the lists at another time. So first of all, we got to talk about digestion and how it affects the human body and define the microbiome. And then we're going to move into anxiety, depression, Alzheimer's disease, how that's specifically linked to the gut. And then how we can improve our capacity to digest food, absorb nutrients, and basically support a healthy digestion. That's where we're going today. So first of all, the gut is a barometer of overall emotional and physical health. So it's called our second brain, but in many ways it's our first brain. It's actually developed in utero before the brain in your head. The enteric nervous system was developed. Enteric meaning the gut was one of the first things of the nervous system developed. And one of the reasons that we as health coaches talk about the importance of the gut is that most of our immune system is in the digestive system. 80 to 90% of serotonin, our feel-good neurotransmitter, is made in the digestive system, as well as 30 other neurotransmitters that you can see down here. And we have trillions of microorganisms called the microbiome that's in our gut. We have a microbiome in many other parts of our body. It's mainly concentrated in the gut. And that is responsible for every aspect of our health. So to get an idea of how our digestive system is working, let's just work with basics here. Let's just start with, okay, how is my digestive system? So you can Google the Bristol stool chart. And those of you that have heard me before, you've heard me say this before, that in the days that I would actually see people, the world has changed a lot. I have one of these laminated, and I would ask my clients, tell me what number you are, because that gives me an idea of what's happening in the digestive system, because what comes out is a reflection of what's happening inside. So ideally, you want a type 4 of a stool, which is like an overripe banana. It's kind of soft and squishy, brown, comes out easily without any effort. It's like called a one push wonder. Versus a 1 that is very constipated, hard lumps or lumpy sausage-like. Main cause of constipation is dehydration. There can also be stress, of course, and lack of nutrients and leaky gut. And then at the other end is liquid consistency. This is inflammation. Now, leaky gut most often creates this kind of stool, number 7. And I'm going to talk about leaky gut because you're not digesting food properly. So it's just kind of going right through. So the first thing is to just know what number you are. Now, having a bowel motion 1 or 2 times a day is ideal. I've had people come up to me and say, oh, I haven't pooped for 4 days. And this is not a good thing because we've got to get rid of those byproducts. They are toxins that need to leave your body. And if they don't, they can develop inflammation. So the idea as we talk about this gut-brain connection is to think differently. And when I say think differently, we have these diagnoses like Alzheimer's or depression or anxiety, but we really want to look at what's causing that and get to the root cause. And it's usually chronic inflammation. And this chronic inflammation does affect our genes and our gene expression. And this whole area is called functional medicine. And I love this example because it basically describes where we're going today. So I was trained in Western medicine and we work with diagnoses. And the diagnoses are considered the leaves of the tree. These are labels. And in some ways, giving something a label minimizes the healing opportunity because these are just labels. What's really happening to cause any of these is all of this underneath, all of these lifestyle factors, inflammation, poor diet, stress, social isolation, nutrient deficiency. Today, we're talking about digestive imbalance specifically. But as health coaches, we are looking at all of these lifestyle factors and supporting people in baby steps towards developing a healthier lifestyle. And perhaps these diagnoses might change. But this is not medical advice. I should tell you that this is lifestyle information for you to become an empowered consumer. Because I know on this webinar, we have people that are here for their own personal use, which of course we all are. But if you're a health coach or you have a wellness business, this is really going to help you working with your clients. So this morning I did another webinar. It's like a double webinar day. And I did a webinar on women and Alzheimer's and talking about lifestyle factors to reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease. And if you're interested in this topic, because as I showed in the tree, Alzheimer's is another diagnosis, multifactorial. And if you're interested, I just thought I would, since I'm doing this with you this afternoon, this is one of the best books on Alzheimer's, a lifestyle approach or a functional health approach. It's by Dean and Aisha Shazai. They live in Loma Linda, California, which is one of the blue zones. A brain healthy lifestyle can eliminate the risk of Alzheimer's disease in roughly 90% of cases. This is what happens when you look at root cause. You don't just look at isolated things like a gene and say, oh, the gene is going to, I've got the gene, I'm going to get Alzheimer's. It's all about lifestyle. So let's look at microbiome because we're going back to the gut. As I said, we have a microbiome in many different places. And this is a fascinating area of research and it's changing all the time. For example, our oral microbiome is directly related to the health of our heart, because what's happening in the mouth in terms of microbes obviously makes entry into the body. So, and the oral microbiome is different than the gut microbiome, which is different than the skin microbiome. So we're getting really specific about understanding these communities of microbes and how they're affecting our body. And there's trillions of them living in intimate association with genes. Now, I always talk about genetics because we are a holographic system, our human body, and we do have human genes, and all the microbes have genes too. And these genes they're like bathed in our lifestyle choices. And whether these genes get switched on or off has everything to do with environment and lifestyle. It's called epigenetics. And the human body is only 25% human. The rest of it is microbes. So the question is, are we really human? We have 10 times more microbial cells than human cells. And all these microbes have genes. So we are really, when we do genetic testing and we just do human genes, that's limited because all the microbes have genes as well. And we're going to talk about balancing your microbiome as essential to this ecosystem. And the consequences of having an imbalanced microbiome are anxiety, depression, brain fog, PTSD, Alzheimer's disease, autism. Dr. David Perlmutter, and I will mention him because I love his book, Grain Brain. I saw an article on his website just recently about a study looking specifically at the role of the microbiome in Alzheimer's disease. Everywhere I turn, I see the link between the microbiome and all of these conditions. And I'm going to give you some examples today. So let's move into the mental health implications. Remember, all disease begins in the gut. This book was really a watershed book for me some years ago when I really wanted to understand the role of the gut and the microbiome in the brain. And this is Dr. David Perlmutter. I love him. The Power of Gut Microbes to Heal and Protect Your Brain. The role of intestinal microbes in the brain to alter your brain's destiny. Now, there's another book called The Microbiome Diet that in the back has specific microbes for specific conditions. Now, know that this is changing all the time, and I would prefer you work with a functional medicine doctor if you're going to get into psychobiotics, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I'll tell you how to find a functional medicine doctor. In fact, I'll tell you now. You go to the Institute of Functional Medicine, ifm.org. It's a website. Then something will pop up and it'll say, find a functional medicine practitioner. You can put in your zip code and it'll show you all of the practitioners that are trained in functional medicine in your area. And a little bit about them, little bios. Many of these have free short consultations if you want to make a telemedicine visit, just a discovery call. So I think functional medicine is the shape of the new healthcare system because it looks at root cause, not just diagnoses. And Dr. David Perlmutter is a functional neurologist, and he specifically looks at the brain. So here are 3 ways that the microbiome affects mental health specifically. Lack of diversity. So imagine a rainforest. We've got to have many diverse trees in the rainforest. And when you have more of one and one species dies out, the whole system changes. That's what's inside of us as well. And there are certain keystone strains. I'm not going to go into those today, but there are certain keystone strains that are crucial to the whole ecosystem. But today I wanted to choose the 3rd one to focus on, which is leakiness of the gut. That is one of the main ways that the brain and mental health is affected by the gut, because the saying goes, leaky gut, leaky brain. So let's learn about leaky gut. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second so you can see me. And I'm going to get my gut model here that I always like to show. So many of you have seen me with my little gutsy here. So here's our esophagus. This is where food comes in. The best thing you can do for your digestion is chew your food every bite 25 times. Why do we do that? So that we get the food into digestible pieces. by the time it gets into the stomach. If you chew and swallow and chew and swallow, then undigested food gets in the stomach. Often we have a depletion of stomach acid and digestive enzymes, so that undigested food is not broken down. And so by the time it gets to the small intestine, this is where leaky gut happens, it's putting pressure on the intestinal cells of the small intestine, and it creates inflammation, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So one of the best things you can do is chew, chew, chew. Make sure you have enough stomach acid. How do you do that? Well, think about medications you might take, like antacids that are decreasing stomach acid, and why you're taking them, and make sure that you work with a medical provider to ensure that you have enough stomach acid. Now, I'm not saying go and take acid, because it has to be very carefully monitored. But some of the reasons that you aren't digesting properly is overuse of antacids, or less digestive enzymes because of stress and worry and other medications that you're taking. And by the time it gets to the small intestine, it's too much pressure on the small intestine. So I'm going to show my screen now again, and we're going to have a look. This is a microscopic view of this small intestine. It's 1 cell thick. It's amazing, the small intestine. So here are all the undigested foods that are coming in because we haven't chewed properly. We've got toxins and microorganisms and gluten and GMO foods. And these tight junctions that stop bad things getting into our bloodstream, they loosen. And the things like toxins and parasites leak into the bloodstream because of the loosening of these interstitial barriers. And when you get things in the bloodstream that should not be there, the immune system says alert, and it sets up an immune response. This is the beginning of an autoimmune condition. Anyone with an autoimmune condition has leaky gut. We all have some version of leaky gut, let's face it, because we live in a stressful environment, lifestyle, and it's normal to have a little leakiness. But here, one of the consequences is blood-brain barrier breach, because what's leaking in the gut is leaking in the brain, and it affects our mental and emotional health. So the first thing to do is clean up leaky gut. And you do that by cleaning up your digestion. And that's going to be the second part of my talk today, the things we can actually do. You can do immediately. Yes, functional medicine doctors are great, testing is great, but cleaning up your digestive system is pretty simple. There's 4 R's, and I'm going to walk through those with you today. So this is a close-up of these interstitial, this barrier in the small intestine with these tight junctions. And the thing about leaky gut, it encompasses so many things. Often it can show up on the skin as acne or eczema, or psoriasis, because the skin is the largest organ of our body. So what's happening in our gut is manifest on our skin. Sinus, chronic sinus problems. And this is what we're working with today. Depression, anxiety, ADHD, autism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all have a relation to leaky gut. Now, this is not cause and effect, because when you work in a functional health area, it's not black and white. It's this more of a holistic approach. You're looking at many different parameters. And then joints, because of the inflammation, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, both of which are autoimmune conditions, and on we go. So good bacteria in the gut, when we feed the microbiome what it needs, which includes food, then we can reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety, reaction to stress, social anxiety, memory, mood, and cognition are improved, all because we are focused on a healthy ecosystem. And I'm going to tell you some ways to do that today. So we have such a short amount of time together. So I have a free ebook. I know many of you have this book, Gut Matters. And if you just go to drkarenwolf.org/Gut Matters, and I know Michelle is going to put it in the chat box. So for those of you who came late, the chat box is, you'll see Michelle putting some links in there. I have no idea why it's disabled today. So if you have questions, put it in the Q&A box. And I see we have some questions lined up here, and we'll get to those at the end. But this book is a 50-page ebook. It's beautiful. It talks about leaky gut, the vagus nerve, psychobiotics, and the 4 R's of cleaning up your digestion. It's an all-encompassing book that I wrote about the gut and how to optimize your second brain. And in it, I do talk about psychobiotics. And some of you might have heard my talk on psychobiotics. This is the book that I love. It wouldn't be the first book you go to if this is your first journey in gut health, but the psychobiotic revolution is talking about how we're using psychomine biotics bacteria specifically for specific conditions, for depression, anxiety, PTSD, Alzheimer's. And some functional neurologists are actually prescribing psychobiotics versus pharmaceuticals for specific conditions, a very exciting area. And we have just begun. So it's a fairly new term, 2012, describe specific bacteria that can have beneficial effects for mood, motivation, and cognition. Isn't that just amazing? I grew up in Western medicine, we have the germ theory, which tells you all germs are bad. And the antibiotic revolution began and changed lives, saving people by getting rid of germs. And now we're saying that microbes play a specific role in healing. It's a whole paradigm shift. And it's very exciting. I keep up to date with it. I'm really interested in specific prescribing patterns that some functional medicine docs are doing. I'm not specifically, but I like to keep up to date with who's doing what. So of course your question is, well, which psychobiotics to use for which condition? And it's in early stages. So there are a few strains that have been demonstrated to have beneficial effect on mood and anxiety in both animal and human studies. And here they are. It's the bifidobacteria and the lactobacillus species. These have been the most studied. And I know these names are really weird. Aren't they always really weird? Like sometimes even hard to say, but longum, bifidum, breve, imphatus. Now there's one, I will give you a little tip. If you're on an antibiotic, because you need it, then you also need a probiotic to support your microbiome. And the one that is the most studied is this one, rhamnosus, lactobacillus rhamnosus, if you can see that word. That's the one that's usually prescribed when you are on an antibiotic, but you don't take them at the same time because the antibiotic will eat up the probiotic, because that's what it does, antibiotic. So if you're on a probiotic twice a day, you would take if you're on an antibiotic twice a day, you take your probiotic in the middle of the day. And so there are different ones being tried out for different conditions. As I said, it's a very exciting area, but we're just beginning to look at which species have control and influence over hundreds of conditions. But this is going to revolutionize mental health as we get more and more specific about microbes. So here's an interesting study that I thought I would mention because this is simple. And I hear so many young people talk about being anxious. When I was in my 20s, I don't think I ever used the word anxiety, but I'm hearing so much anxiety. And so that's why I thought I would bring up this very simple study. It was published, and what this study did was it asked some students to include some of these foods in their regular diet: yogurt, kefir, fermented soy milk. You'll see some similarities here: sauerkraut, dark chocolate, microalgae, pickles, tempeh, kimchi. These are all fermented foods. And they found a decrease in social anxiety amongst these young adults who ate this fermented food. It was published in the Psychiatry Research way back, 2015, that's 6 years ago. And some of the speculated reasons or the mechanisms, one, it decreased gut permeability, because these fermented foods are probiotics and prebiotics, and they help with the gut interstitial barrier, and they decrease inflammation. I can't speak enough about probiotics and prebiotics, food and supplements, and we'll get to that. And the fermented foods increased GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that mimics benzodiazepines. So there it is, a neurotransmitter. And didn't I say that there's over 30 neurotransmitters made in the gut? So when you feed your microbiome good food and improve the diversity, you improve the neurotransmitters, which is a direct link, of course, to our mood and our mental health. So very simply, fermented foods every day could be one thing that we immediately practice. And then there's such a lot of research on autism and gut bacteria. And it is really astounding how many we are diagnosing on the autism spectrum. 1 in 68 children, with 1 in 42 in boys and 1 in 189 in girls. And we really have seen a lot of research on the role of the gut and the autism spectrum. I like to say the autism spectrum rather than give it a diagnosis. And there's a lot of interventions using probiotics, prebiotics, dietary interventions to clean up the gut and reduce intestinal inflammation as therapeutic tools. This is a very exciting area, probably has been most advanced. Okay, so I want to see if you know what this is, FMT. If I had a chat box, I would ask, but our chat box is not working right now. So I'm going to go straight to what it is. It's called fecal microbial transplantation. So this is really important for you to know as you journey into understanding the gut, because harnessing the power of a healthy microbiome is part of treatment of many illnesses. And not just illnesses, but obesity. There is believed to be in people that have a tendency to be overweight, there is a certain microbial makeup. And so they have used fecal microbial implants to treat obesity by changing the microbiome. I hesitate to say fat bugs and skinny bugs, but that's what they sometimes are called. It's because it's this shifting the diversity to help with normalizing weight, diabetes, and now cognitive decline. And this is being done in many hospitals in the US, certainly has been done in Europe a long time, but do not DIY it. Do not do it yourself. Because donor screening is, I know some of you think, why would I really do that? Yes, people are doing that. Donor screening is important. So it is done under medical supervision. You can see this is colonoscopy. The feces are put through the scope into the rectum, and it's done under medical supervision. So that is fecal microbial implants. It's done for many, many different conditions. I just thought I would let you know that. Okay, so we've got about 15 minutes left because I want to have time for questions. So let's get to what do we do about it? How do we optimize digestion? Because I know a lot of you will say, well, how do I get my microbiome tested? And my answer to that is just follow this protocol first to balance your microbiome, because we know a lot about just a healthy lifestyle. And to be honest, the different companies doing microbial testing or microbiome testing are very varied. You get different results from different companies. And I'm not 100% sure that we're at the research level and the body of evidence level to make that an effective option at this point. We're really close. And I'm keeping my eye on it because I really do think that that's the future, that we'll be doing stool testing, microbiome testing. So I want you to think of the 4 R's: remove, replace, restore, repair. This is a functional medicine approach, the 4 R's. And I hope you find something in here that you can apply yourself and share it with the people that you love. So we're going to talk about, first of all, removing toxins. Now, this is a slide straight from my ebook, Gut Matters. And many of my coaches actually are using this ebook in their presentations because it's all there for you. You remove inflammatory substances. And you can see there are 12 here. Not surprising, sugar and gluten, wheat and dairy, top of the list. Processed foods, white foods, GMOs, coloring, additive, preservatives. And don't forget what we put on our skin, because what we put on our skin gets absorbed into our cells of our body, which then affects the brain. So having really clean skincare, personal care products. The average woman uses over 16 personal care products a day between shampoo and conditioner and shower gel and facial products and body moisturizer and on we go. And all of that potentially has chemicals that are entering the body. So I'm just going to focus on one today because this is an area of specialty that I work with and believe in so much, and that is blood sugar. So I actually ask my clients to get a glucometer. Most people only get a glucometer if they have diabetes. But I believe we need to know what our blood sugar is doing over the course of the day, not just once a year when we do a fasting blood sugar. I want to know how your blood sugar responds to a certain food and what happens an hour after eating food and what happens the morning after having a bad night's sleep. So you can gauge how stable your blood sugar is, because stable blood sugar is one of the #1 causes of reducing inflammation of the body and the brain. And optimal blood sugar preserves the brain. Now, this is a visual for you. I'm not talking about no sugar. Our body and our brain needs carbohydrates, but it's the spiking of blood sugar, which is spiking of insulin, creates inflammation. And it's the kind of carbohydrates that we're eating. We want to eat low glycemic, what I call slow carbohydrates. They don't spike your blood sugar. And I thought I would offer you this. You know, it's one thing to have a blood test and then someone to say, oh, it's all normal. I don't want you to be normal. I want you to be optimal, and I want you to know your numbers. So when I ask you what your vitamin D is, I want you to know what that number is. Just like maybe you know your blood pressure or your blood cholesterol. What is your blood sugar on average? And what is your HbA1c? So fasting blood glucose from a functional medicine perspective is 75 to 85. Hemoglobin A1c, which is hemoglobin is, you know about hemoglobin in the blood, the red blood cells, and hemoglobin A1c is when glucose attaches to the hemoglobin. So this is a test of how your blood sugar has been over the previous 3 months. It's a better indicator of blood sugar control. And ideally, for what we're talking about, optimal health, 4.5 to 5.0. Triglycerides are a marker of blood sugar balance, and fasting insulin. It's rarely done, but I want to know what your fasting insulin, because maybe it's really high because that's the only way your blood sugar is being controlled. And a high insulin is very inflammatory to the body and the brain. So those are some numbers that I thought would be really useful for you. People that are on the standard American diet are oblivious to what they're putting in their body, whereas this is nutrients and color and alive food and probiotics and prebiotics, real nutrients for the body and the brain. And of course, it makes a difference to the functioning of our brain, what we put in our body. I love this picture. So I talked about sugar this morning on my talk, and I got a lot of questions about sugar addiction. Sugar addiction is real. If you feel like, especially with the pandemic, you've just got out of control with blood sugar because you've been using comfort foods, which is very normal, then we have my coaches, my group have every month we do a 5-day sugar cleanse just to keep your blood sugar in balance, just to reset your body, reset your cravings. And the next one is April the 11th. So whoever invited you to this webinar, you could talk to them about this. It's a very powerful program. And it's not just a 5-day sugar cleanse, but we have every day of the 5 days, we have amazing wellness topics delivered by different coaches on things like functional fitness for life, activating your energy system, breathing techniques. This is stress management talk, and hydration. So if this is something you just feel called to need help with, then let us know, and you can be part of our group. The other thing that we do, which is really fun, is I remember I talked about skincare products. So we do a sip and scrub, and it's a chance to try out some amazing natural skincare products. This is a mask and scrub, and we do it by Zoom. So it's like a Zoom spa party. And the next one I'm doing is Thursday, April 22nd at 5 o'clock. So again, reach out to whoever invited you, and you can join in to that one. Okay, so let's move on to the second R, which is replace, digestive enzymes. So remember when I said that chewing is the best thing you can do for your digestion? Just think of a camel in that mouth that goes chew and chew and chew constantly. That's the best thing you can do so that that food is broken down by the time it gets into the stomach. And also here you see sauerkraut, making your own sauerkraut. It's pretty easy. Cabbage, some cabbage and some Himalayan salt and one of those mason jars with a hole in the lid. I've made my own sauerkraut, I'm proud to say, but when I don't make it, I buy it. But it's a probiotic and a prebiotic. It's a fermented food that is easy to just add to anything in your diet. But many of us need digestive support. I know Michelle's going to put this link in for you. If you feel like you aren't getting proper digestion, it's not all breaking down in the stomach, and it might be that you need extra digestive support. Certainly if you had your gallbladder out, you need extra digestive support. And so there is a digestive enzyme that I really like. A lot of people ask me, so that's the link. And for any of the coaches out there, if anybody clicks on this link, then I will be reaching out to you to see who referred you so that you can be supported by that coach. But I take these everywhere. So if you're having a particular heavy meal, if you're out, this can really help break down the food and really help you with digestion. It has artichoke extract, which is a powerful emulsifier. Okay, then let's have a look at our next restore. So remember I talked about the microbiome. Here's some great news. You can change your microbiome in 24 hours by changing your diet. That's great news. So by listening today and adding some of these foods, now you'll notice a lot of these are herbs. So shout out to Ghazala and Ankutta that makes these amazing meals, Indian meals with these amazing herbs, dried sage, rosemary, thyme, chestnut seeds, oregano, cloves, celery seed. This is a big message that herbs are a powerful way to support a healthy microbiome. It also means that by cooking ourselves, we are really supporting optimal health. I always see blueberries. Here's blueberries. They always show up, by the way, when we talk about a healthy microbiome. So adding blueberries every day is also a really good idea. And I love this picture. A way to support a healthy microbiome, people with pets have healthier microbiomes because they're sharing their microbiomes. If you work in the garden and you're working with all the dirt, helps you with your microbiome. So just let that dog lick you and it'll help your microbiome. And we talk about prebiotics and probiotics. And I want to explain this because some people they always ask me. A prebiotic is food for the probiotic. It's like fertilizer. Whereas a probiotic is live bacteria. These are live microorganisms. And we need both. We need the fertilizer and we need the live bacteria to support a healthy microbiome. And there are plenty of prebiotic foods. You might see some similarities here. What I said earlier. Notice the word raw, R-A-W. I know with my accent that sounds kind of odd, raw. Asparagus, raw garlic, raw onion, cooked onions, yay, I love cooked onions. Cabbage, I have a great recipe for cabbage steaks. I love cabbage steaks, that is so easy. I have that on my website. Raw banana, fiber is fertilizer. So a prebiotic is usually non-digestible food or more difficult to digest because that's what the organisms are feeding on. So adding prebiotic foods and probiotic foods. So sauerkraut, pickles, love pickles, kefir, yogurt. Now be careful of the yogurts because a lot of commercial yogurts have a lot of sugar and sugar, not so good for you. And be careful of kombucha because you got to read the label. A lot of that also has some sugar. But we need probiotics, even if you have a healthy diet. There are certain things that are really affecting our microbiome: sleep deprivation, stress, age, illness, antibiotics, poor diet, hydration, and environmental toxins. We live in this soup of environmental toxins that that are interfering with our detoxification pathway. So I recommend everyone take an extra probiotic supplement as well as the probiotic foods. Your microbiome will love it. And of course, the question is, which one? So I'm going to tell you, because everybody asks me. I love the USANA probiotic for a variety of reasons. It's a stick pack, so it's easy to use. You just open it, throw it down. Don't have to refrigerate it. It's dairy-free and sugar-free. It modulates the immune system because most of our immune system is in the gut. Live active cultures, and there is a link if you're interested in the probiotic. Again, if you click on that link, you'll get a phone call for support to make sure you understand what it is and to attach yourself to whatever coach sent you on the webinar, or you can just talk to whoever invited you to the webinar. I thought I would put this in because I often get that question. What probiotic do you recommend? This has the 2 species that I talked about earlier, the lactobacillus and the bifidobacteria, that are the most researched in the most diverse microbiome. Okay. So we are getting down to the 4R. Good. I like to finish around the 1:45 mark so that we have plenty of time for questions. So once we've removed toxins, because clearly, if you do all this good stuff without removing toxins, you're still getting toxins. So that's why it's number 1. Getting the digestive enzymes to break down the food to help heal leaky gut, restoring the microbiome with probiotics and prebiotics. Now we've got to do some repair. And most of us are nutrient depleted. So I have a gut support cellular nutrition pack that has antioxidants and minerals and vitamin D and liver support, because the liver is the main organ of detoxification. So think about a very high quality pharmaceutical grade cellular nutrition product. And if you're really wanting to take action, because all of this is just information, about 10 years ago, it's been a while, that Dr. Deb Kern and myself created this program called Clear the Way. It's an online self-paced program that takes you through a digestion detox experience at your own pace. It's self-paced. And it addresses all the areas that I talked about with the 4 R's of functional medicine. So removing toxins, it's gluten and dairy free. All the recipes are listed, gluten, dairy free, as well as a healthy home guide to clean up environmental toxins. We have shopping lists and meal plans. Digestive enzymes are included, stress management videos and techniques. We talk about restoring the microbiome. I have many videos on there, and you do have probiotics and prebiotics daily. And repairing, there's coaching and education and the gut support pack. So if you're interested to know more about the Clear the Way program, you can either email me there, or I think Michelle is going to put in the URL for the clearthewayprogram.com. So there's a video on the cover, on the homepage, that you can learn about it. Now, a little shout out to any of the health coaches that are on today. I'm very passionate about this work, as you can tell, but I can't do it alone. So one of the things I love to do is mentor other health coaches to be successful. So I do have a webinar on April the 7th of the 4 keys for success in your health and wellness business. Because if you are successful, we are going to shift this disease care system to healthcare. And I want to share the things I've learned over almost 30 years. And that webinar is open to everybody. And there's the URL, and I'm sure Michelle will put that in the chat box as well, to join me on April the 7th at this same time to talk about 4 keys to your health and wellness business success. And there is that link too, in case you missed it earlier, to get your free ebook. This is completely free, and it is a way for you to just assimilate some of this information, because I know it was a lot. So, yay, I finished right on time. So Michelle, I'm going to pop back with you. I'm going to not stop sharing my screen. Oh, look, we have 50 attendees. That's so wonderful. And I assume we have questions, and I'm happy to, this is the fun part, I think, is to address questions as they come in. If you have questions, type them in the Q&A box, not the chat box, please. And
So it looks like Catherine there was asking about the yogurt. You started touching on that question with the yogurt, how
yes.
it's good. Uh-oh.
Good, healthy yogurt. I mean, you've really got to get the yogurt that doesn't have a lot of sugar. You got to read your labels. And you want live bacteria in that yogurt. There are many different yogurts, a lot of commercial yogurts, a lot of yogurts that put not just fruit, but you notice really sweetened, like almost a syrup of fruit. Of course, then that sugar is going to impact the live bacteria. So you don't want it super sweet. You want to really be careful of the yogurts that you select.
And then it looks like Karen is wanting to see, Karen, I think, did you want the dates for the next month's Sugar Busters? I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes, April the 11th. That's a Sunday. It's the Sunday after Easter. So I do it every month, and I start on a Sunday where I do an introduction like this via Zoom, and people start on the Monday because people like to do the 5 days from Monday to Friday. Usually it's easier for them. And then we have Zoom calls every day. So Karen, if that was whoever asked that, talk to whoever invited you to the webinar to talk to them about, and if it was me, reach out to me about how to get access to that Sugar Buster program.
Yeah. And then is it possible to reverse leaky gut? Julie asks.
Yes, it is. Is that Julie DeAngelis? Was that a different Julie?
Julie DeAngelis.
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, Julie. Yes, it sure is, which is the great news. So everything I've talked about is the first step to not healing, but to supporting a healthy gut. Then if someone has a severe autoimmune condition, I'll just give you an example, severe autoimmune condition, which is always linked to leaky gut. So they need some intervention from a functional medicine doctor. Then that functional medicine doctor might do a test. There is a test, and might prescribe. There is a product from Designs for Health called GI Revive that is specific for a leaky gut. But again, I recommend that happening under the supervision of a functional medicine doctor so that it can be tracked. So, but everything I've talked about with the prebiotics and the probiotics and the cellular nutrition all supports a healthy gut and cleans up that small intestine inflammation. Great question.
Ah, well, looks like the questions. Any other questions?
Oh, can you please show the slide with next month's group again? Oh, I see. That was, yes, that was Karen that asked that. Let me show you that slide so she can see, because I know I passed through everything so quickly. Let's see, escape there, escape. Oh, okay. Let's see, I'll go back this way. Let's see, here it is. I'll make that bigger. So you can go onto my website here, and I'm sure Michelle put that link in the chat box that talks a lot about the program. And you can either click on that link there or just talk to whoever invited you. And we do these live Zoom calls every day, which are just so amazing. And our faculty of coaches just astounds me every month that we just get better and better. And you get a Jumpstart, a Cleanse guidebook here. You get a survival guide. You get a part of the private Facebook group. There's over 900 people now as part of our group that are participating in this low glycemic lifestyle, because this is just a jumpstart. This is to remove sugar cravings and to start understanding what a low glycemic lifestyle means. And it's just the beginning of the journey. And many of us are been living this way for a while. The pandemic might have interfered with our plan a little, which is normal, like I said, because sugar addiction, it's a real addiction, and we can have relapse. But the great thing is when you have something that works, you can always revert back to it. Anything else come in?
Oh,
Can I
get a certificate of participation? Ah.
I don't know. You'd have to email me about that. I'm not sure what that is for, but you might email me and I can just show you that. again, and then I can just understand what it is that you're looking for. It's not CEU accredited, but there we go. I'll just put up my email here. You can ask me directly for that. So no other questions, huh?
That looks like it. Let's check one more time. Yep, some thank yous and very interesting. Yeah.
Good, 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 good. So share this information. You'll all get a copy of the recording in about a day, yes, 24 hours. And just take your baby steps, whatever it is. If you have someone, and I know many of you were invited to this by a coach, then go back to them and just talk about what you learned. Talk about what interested you, where you might want to begin, because change happens from taking action. And that's why I do this. I deliver information, but ultimately it's up to you to take baby steps. Whether you join one of the programs, Clear the Way or Sugar Buster, or you work with your coach on baby steps, whatever works best for you.
Yeah, and I just want to I'm looking at the list, and just to let several of you are here that came from classes that I'm doing. So I'm also going to send a follow-up email. So never fear, I'll be back in touch with you as well.
Fabulous. And thank you, Michelle, for your help. It's so wonderful to have support when I'm doing something like this. And we worked around the chat disable. I'll figure that out, see what happened.
Yeah, it worked.
It worked. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the evening, and we'll see you next time on our next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye.